Hey everybody, it's Bust with Battles with Bust number 538, and today we're doing battle with Fiora Shen. And so the LOR 2024 state of the game has been presented to us. The future of our competitive gameplay is uncertain, but until February 2nd gets here, I feel like we should at least do our best to kind of keep our heads up and have good hopes for the future. And so in this time, I'm going to kind of try to hope for the best, but plan for the worst. I wanted to kind of have a little bit of a throwback to some of the things we've done across the channel over the past 4 years. It's been 4 years, right? 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. Like, that's four. I still can't do math after all these years, but that's what it certainly seems like. But nonetheless, I wanted to kind of go back through some of the highlights, some of the nice things, the achievements and accomplishments we've unlocked over that time, and do a little bit of a throwback to it. And so, interestingly enough, the first video I did for Legends of Runeterra, the first expedition video that I put out there for the world to see, was recorded on January 24th, 2020. And so as I record this is January 24th of 2024. It's fucking wild how that kind of all worked itself out. And so I definitely wanted to go in and give that Fiora Shen deck we played back then a bit of a makeover and see how it can hold up here in the current times. And so, man, I watched a little bit of that video and it was fucking painful. Like, I know I'm not very good at the content creation stuff, but like the leaps and bounds I've made from that point to here are kind of insane. Like, the video was like an hour and a half long because I just talked so fucking slow and I had no vocal confidence or anything. And so while I still feel like the quality of my content's pretty bottom tier, that was like under the floor. Like, it was. It's fucking painful to see it. You can still go back and see it. It's not listed directly on YouTube. You have to go to the playlists. There's like an open beta playlist, and the expedition videos are still there. But nonetheless, taking a look at Fiora Shen, we're going to be in the space of Eternal today, and I feel like all of these barrier-based decks have really kind of moved away from the ideas of playing Fiora. Fiora as a big kind of OTK monster is a very kind of dangerous prospect these days. There's just so much better removal. The decks are so much more efficient. There's a bunch of ways to just kind of deal with Fiora, be it things like Explorers that people just accidentally play. And so I think the days of playing the kind of pure Fiora-based OTK style of deck are probably behind us, right? There's maybe some kind of best of three meta to where it makes sense to bring a real Fiora-heavy style of deck to the forefront, but I think in the decks these days, she's just kind of a threat, right? And that was kind of where I feel like Fiora's been over the course of the past year or so, is she's not really the kind of forefront of your deck, but she can present some scary situations for your opponent. You get 2 kills with Fiora, and then if your opponent's not careful, then they're just fucking dead. And so they have to play around the OTK, devote a lot of resources to the OTK, even though we aren't really planning on going for it, right? They do have to worry about us getting 2 tick ups, getting into combat, and having a concerted strike. And so that kind of thing is what our opponent has to worry about. Us, we don't really worry about it. We just know that we have access to it. And what these decks feel like they've really kind of pushed themselves towards since then is being a very big Shen deck. Shen with the Sacred Protector boat, loading up this big kind of engine-y combo style of board, to where we're building up to having like a Green Glade Caretaker and 2 Kanaku students with Shen and the Sacred Protector, and then you're just like, LOL, I have like 70 power of barrier units on the board, what are you gonna do? Or anytime you try to get into combat, a single barrier spell is going to give us 2 Kanaku students with barriers, and you can't kill 3 of our units within this combat. And so it's moved much more towards this kind of board-centric Shen barrier combo-y kind of style, but Fiora is here in the back line to threaten those OTKs, right? We can most certainly still have the Fiora Shen combo with Shen giving Fiora barriers, but more likely she's going to, block a unit, maybe get a barrier, maybe get a level up, and then that's the end of the day. The opponent has to devote their vengeance in at that point and get her off of the board. But nonetheless, good stuff. I'm ready for battle. I hope you are too. I checked in on the pay-to-win price, and we're all paid up. I don't know what Riot was talking about, people not spending enough money on the game. We got the whole thing prismatic, except for Shen and the Sacred Protector. Maybe that was our problem. We should have premiumed those up at some point. And then we got the pool party Fiora. This is reason enough to go back. Like, this is why Riot failed. They just didn't make enough pool party skins. I'd have bought fucking all of them if it didn't involve playing Heimerdinger decks. And so It's kind of wild how that stuff comes together. Nonetheless, let's see how it goes. See what's happening out here in the eternal casual queues. Running into our friend Eddie. I love to see how Fiora stands up against Eddie. it's gonna be poorly. I'll go ahead and put that out there for you. It's not gonna go well. But as far as this start goes, I have to assume that we're up against just the big ramp deck, and they're not going to have a ton of interactivity for our early units. And so I want to find the one cost guy that gets bonus attack with the barriers. I want to find the Kanaku student. We found a really trashy hand for playing against the likes of Elder Dragon, Volibear, Freylord, but you know, maybe things will make a turn for the better. Oh, it's got Yetis. Shit, things just got better. I was not expecting a Yeti yearly to come down. I guess there are some interesting, like, expensive Yetis to play with the Elder Dragon. Like, I haven't had the opportunity to play Ancient Yeti Elder Dragon, which sounds fantastic to me. Maybe that's what we're about to see here for ourselves. But maybe one day, maybe we'll get back to Eternal if things go to where, you know, constructed is still a thing. I'm pretty certain the patch coming at the beginning of February is supposed to usher in the Eternal season. Now, whether or not that's going to be a thing is kind of up in the air, but maybe. All right, not a lot going here, but this Fiora has to be threatening, right? You don't like having little Yeti yearlings on the board as your opponent comes in and drops Fiora on you, and so maybe we will have an OTK on the table. We should start popping after this turn, though. Get Fiora down. The next turn we'll have the mana for the riposte and the blocking Badger Bear. Can start protecting a unit and then boosting the Kanaku student with the free barriers. I'm on board.
They would fall by my blade.
There shouldn't be too much in Freylord that can really contest a Fiora, right? They can play flash freeze kind of thing so she doesn't get kills on stuff, but it doesn't strike me as the kind of cards that are going to be able to, like, is this guy, ooh, Shen, is this guy really going to be playing a,
Master, I am ready for my
like, Fury of the North kind of thing, or Entombs? It doesn't strike me as the kind of cards you're playing with Elder Dragon Volibear.
Enforced equilibrium.
Alright, looking strong here. The combos have come abound. This is a bit of a non-bow with Eddie, though, right? I guess if you're only playing... Oh, I guess it all depends on what the opponent's playing, but it doesn't strike me as generating a bunch of one-cost cards in your Elder Dragon deck is what you're really looking to do. Alright, not bad, though. Shen's ready to fuck. He's gonna give him a barrier next turn, and he's gonna be ready to go. Getting that flip, boosting those stats. I like it. Haven't seen any ramp from the opponent either, so Volibear is pretty far down the road. He can start playing the 6th cost units next turn. He's gonna start getting his Elder Dragon friends on board. I'm not entirely certain what to expect in the space of Eternal, right? I'm sure you can still come down and drop a Enraged Fire Spitter. That still sounds pretty good. I'm not entirely certain what to expect here. So with this, I do worry about Buried in Ice. Like this, we're very close to just like getting all kinds of kills off the Sacred Protector, but I kind of think we want to just flip Shen beforehand and call that enough, right? So if we say riposte the Badger Bear, it's going to put barrier on Kanaku student. That's going to flip the Shen. Now when Shen gives out the barriers, it's going to have that plus attack bonus attached to it. So now we should be able to Shen and Fiora and have this big old chunk of damage rolling through now. Wouldn't be surprised to see like a Harsh Winds or something, but I definitely don't want to give the opponent the opportunity to play like a Buried in Ice. Okay. We got more bonuses in hand. Don't worry about that, my dude. Uh-oh. Is that too much? We can get 5 off the riposte and 2 off the moral support. That's a little short. A little short. I think it's okay though. We'll just take the big overbank and call it a day. Do we want to add the Kanaku student? I think that's the kind of valid question here. Let's just pass on it. It's so good with Shen on board. Like, on the one hand, I worry about Buried in Ice, but on the other hand, maybe we need to worry about She Who Wanders. But She Who Wanders is pretty far away from actually getting cast, so I don't think we have to worry about that too much. Oh. That is not frightening. Alright, it's time to go ham. Get those big double attacks. Get lined up for dealing like 700 damage next turn. I did the math. It's pretty close. It's closer to 700 than 0, I think. It's something like that. I think it is. Alright, there's all the ramp. I'll tell you something about ramp. You want to cast it before turn 8. I think that's a sometimes overlooked bonus to the ramp spells. Probably want to play him before turn 8. Alright, gotta imagine that's enough for a victory.
So I go.
Something like this, I guess. And then even if he has a bunch of flash freezes, we just still have tons of combos here, right? We're getting to like play a riposte on Shen, giving him a bunch of bonuses, and then the Green Glade Caretaker boosting herself along the way. Looks good. All right, so man, one of the stories I was wanting to talk about with this with the happenings at Riot, and why one of the reasons I have so much compassion for those folks is it's what I call the worst breakup of my life. I still describe the worst breakup of my life to my wife. She just gives me the looks, but I think everyone has to understand it if you've been through it. To where the worst breakup of my life wasn't some girl breaking old bust heart. It wasn't some girl that rejected me or some girl I was with that eventually turned me down. It was a dude. It was a bro, and not in the sexual sense, right? We weren't sexual bros. We were coworkers, and like we just had like such a good rapport and such a good understanding of what we wanted to do as we shared an office together, as we had to spend 40+ hours a week in a confined space with each other, how we kind of wanted that to go. And it was so nice. Like, we both played Magic cards. We were both into Pokemon. We both had a similar vein of interest, to where, you know, if you're stuck with somebody for 40 hours a week, you do eventually have to make some words at them. And so we always had something. And it was like, you know, at the beginning of the day, he would always roll in at like 9. I was a degenerate, so I would always show up late. But then it was like we would kind of do the bullshit chit chat in the morning and talk about what we saw on Reddit and cats and stuff. And then after that, it was just like headphones until noon. And we had this like nice like work related rapport, to where we respected the quality of each other's work. So it wasn't like I felt like I was working with some dumb fuck. And you know, we had the good thing that way. And then, you know, we go to lunch together and come back and try to call it a day. But nonetheless, like, we worked together for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years. And then he eventually got a new job. He got a job somewhere else. And then it's like when it hits you, you're like, oh, fuck. You know, like, I didn't realize how good it could be. Like, I'm fine to just be there by myself. Having an office all alone is not that big of a deal. But, you know, that kind of aspect to it, to where you are just, like, stuck with another person. And if you don't like that person, it fucking sucks, right? It fucking sucks bad. and we just had it so good and so well together. And so once he left, it took maybe like 3 or 4 months before we got a replacement for him, and I fucking hated that guy with every ounce of my passion. The way that we kind of got our start, the way that our beginning happened with Bust Office Mate number 2 was like, you know, it's like going on a date with somebody. You have to try and figure out each other's interests and stuff and what they're into and what you're into. And here, we can start going for Fiora. She seems pretty good against the Husks, but like this seems like such a strong Shen board. And so it's like, oh, cool, what are you into? You know, I like to play Magic cards. We like to do this and do that. And he's like, cool, I play Magic cards sometimes. And it's like, oh, man, what are you into? What's your favorite deck? Do you like to attack with the big green monsters? Do you like to play the burn deck? What's your jam, yo? And he was like, I hate Jace. And I was like, that's not really a valid answer, man. The things that you dislike being Jace, number one's getting us off to a bad start. But number two, it's not really a thing that you like. It's just a thing that you dislike, and this is disappointment. And so I immediately just had this kind of like sour taste in my mouth with that guy. He sat around and made weird noises all day. The thing I should have got from him is he got into crypto, and he's probably just like a mega millionaire right now. He was talking heavily about making Bitcoin machines back in it was probably pre-2010. So if you're making Bitcoin in like 2008, you have to be a fucking millionaire right now. But nonetheless, I did not appreciate the time together with that guy. Pretty sure he didn't like me either, and that is what it is. And then I got another guy after him. I didn't like him either, and then I eventually left that place of work. But man, again, the biggest breakup of my life, the most painful thing in terms of relationships with another human being, losing out on Mike. It's painful. So where that long aside was going is I know a lot of people at Riot are going through that right now, even if it's just a matter of, oh, this is an easy takedown on Fiora. I think we can give away our Broadwing onto the student. I do want to keep some like leeway in terms of our health, but the challenges don't matter. We're about to go barrier mode here. But no, like for the folks at Riot, you know, it clearly sucks if, you know, one of your buddies just straight up lost their job, but you never know when it's just like your Mike, you know, your buddy, you sit around and talk about, I don't know, Elden Ring or whatever you played the night before, then you get to talk about video games and stuff at work, and you don't make weird noises towards each other and stuff. Just having all of that taken away. So it's a real bummer for a lot of people. You get to spend 50 hours a week with a person. It sucks when they suck, and when you have a good one, it sucks when they're gone. And so I'm sure more than one person had to go through that this week. And so even if your dev friend or your artist friend or whoever didn't lose their job getting moved from LoR to League of Legends or whatever, in large part they're just gone. Alright, we can get back to the game though. Here's exactly why I was not super keen on counting on Fiora, right? Opponent has the Explorer's Blunder. It could have taken a barrier off of her. She doesn't have Challenger anymore. Kind of sucks to be Fiora for the round. But she's still strong at combat. If she wants to block, she's probably going to win it. Things here look pretty good. Just going to go ahead and send everybody. The Bright Steel Protector, we'll see if it gets blocked. I'm fine to riposte with it. We do have this single combat concerted strike hand, so if he does get involved with Fiora and she gets a kill here, we can just threaten OTKs next turn. We'll have to see how that goes. He doesn't go for it. Okay, so far so good. So he doesn't have any mana at this point. Do we want to like get a takedown somewhere? Again, like the Fiora kill, she is quite threatening against a deck like this, because as he attacks, the Sand Soldiers are going to come out, and then we can just block him with Fiora. I think we just take this single combat on Shen over to Domination. And if this pulls out like a Nopify, I think that's fine. If it pulls out a Twin Disciplines, it's not as cool, but I think it's still okay as well. Oof, the worst breakup of my life. Oh, Mike. I'm trying to think of the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia bit, to where they're trying to get bros for the party mansion, and the invite is just the bicep that looks like a gigantic veiny cock and balls. That's what the entirety of this exchange sounds like. Cool dudes looking for other cool dudes to hang out in party mansion. Nothing sexual. I think it's large men are okay, but must be funny. Again, nothing sexual. Alright, what do we got going on here? We'll get a block in with Fiora. Might as well put her in front of a Sand Soldier. Then we're still safe. He's got a bit of work to do in as far as getting full board goes. We can still just say block sparring student with a
Too easy.
Bright Steel Protector. Alright, there's the big attack. I guess I was trying to think. It's been a while since I've had to do battle against Azir Irelia. It's like, I guess the thing that you could have to worry about would be like a syncopate. And then he did just pick up the Fiora spell, so he can move, or he did pick up the Blade Surge, so he can move a unit over in front of Fiora if he wants. I think we probably want to line this up to where, well, it probably doesn't matter.
My life for these lands.
Understood.
See what happens. He's going to Blade Surge in front of Fiora now, then we can Moral Support. And then after the Moral Support, we should be able to Concerted Strike for the win. That's the way I'm kind of envisioning it. And then if he just takes this combat, doesn't play any cards, ends the day with us having Fiora Shen and him having two sparring students, fine. That's great. Now, I guess the angle he could be taking here is moving a sparring student. No, he can't move sparring student in front of Fiora. Has to be Irelia. Cool. I think we're good. Let's see. Let's go ahead and protect this Shen. And so I'm going to look to do a Concerted Strike. Let's lead off with... we're going to strike down Shen. We'll lead... Click here. Shen first, Fiora second. And then, assuming this goes how we want, that's going to get us the OTK. Fiora will get a strike. She'll kill the Sand Soldier, and we'll go, yay, we win. Yay. We did it. Sad face. Sad Poro. Snip, snap. Got him.
They will no match.
Whew. Cool dudes looking for other cool dudes. That's how we should have got people into Runeterra. You just get out there and say, cool dudes looking for other cool dudes. Play some card games with. Alright, it wouldn't be a throwback video without a little bit of Kindred in it. Probably gonna hate literally everything about this game, but let's move forward and see how it goes. I'm curious if we can keep Fiora in this space. Like, I imagine that Kindred Nasus is going to be playing a bunch of things like Fading Icon. And again, like, I don't think that she's going to be able to really threaten a legitimate OTK. Opponent's going to have too much stuff like Crumble and Vengeance, and we're not playing any denies. But opponent doesn't know that we're not playing denies, and you do have to give Fiora quite a bit of respect in terms of her just mowing through all of your little cheap units. If we can't find something to do, though. Right on time, blocking Badger Bear. Sure. Let's get this Fiora out here with the Dark and Aegis ready to strike down all these little 1/1 bros.
The air betrays the child.
think we can run her out. I mean, if she gets popped by a
By my honor, you
Black
must
Spear,
die.
kind of sucks, but is what it is. You can tell opponent's scared now, though. They said, oh shit. Oh shit, Bust is playing for keeps. So how do we want to go about this? I'm leaning towards using Brightsteel Protector onto Fiora and then just playing Dark and Aegis for the Giral. Our hand doesn't do too much after that, so
You're covered.
let's try and line up some attacks here, and then maybe we can get a good combat if he spends mana in a weird way. I guess there's not the only real thing in here would be like a Quicksand, right? Quicksand is the mid combat trick that they would play. Oh shit! Why don't we have enough mana? Oh, we played Dum Dum. Fuck. I guess we're not playing Giral. That's off the table. Shit.
Let them eat
All right, whatever.
Protect and strike.
Okay. So I think the thing that might be our kind of saving grace here is we do have good blocks for Nasus for quite a while. So if he wants to get Nasus on board, what the fuck is this thing? Revive the strongest dead ally. That's probably a... just going to get back a 2-2 at this point. I guess if you throw down Nasus and try and get him killed off, you could get something a little bigger. Man, we've been playing this game for 4 years and we can't still figure out how mana works, right? That's tough. That's a tough beat right there. I still can't decide if it's been 3 or 4 years since this game came out. It's another tough piece. Whenever like the zero gets involved, I have a real struggle with calculating the calculating the number. 2020, it ends in 0, so it's like that's a whole year, right? 2020 is a whole year. 2021 is a whole year. That's 2. 2023 is a whole year. That's 3. 2020, 2021, it has been 3 years. Okay, gotcha. We're kicking in on year number 4 now. I got there. All of 2020, year 1. All of 2021, that's year 2. All of 2023, we got it. That's year 3. Oof. Fucking A, man. I don't know why you all bother with this channel. It's talking about breaking up with dudes, doing clearly basic math. Yeah, that sucks. I was wondering if this was going to be a castigate kind of thing. We at least have the kill onto Kindred. Okay. Bummer. We can still cast a bunch of stuff. I mean, it feels like we should be much further behind than we actually are. Get all these Shen bros on the board. Got a couple of good units for next turn. If we have to deal with this castigate bullshit again, then we're set in terms of having 2 champions on the board. And this is what I was kind of curious if we couldn't get into. The thing with Nasus is he has to strike for 10 damage, right? He wants to struck for 10 damage in 1 strike, but if he strikes into a barrier, that counts as 0 damage. And so there's a very good chance that he's just not going to get to deal damage off of these strikes. I don't like having to riposte here, but it gets us really close to just killing Nasus if we want. I guess we don't super want to kill Nasus because he's just going to come back off of this Haunted Tomb. But there's something there. Now we're fucked. Okay, GG. I knew that was gonna be a nightmare.
I did all I could.
Fucking Kindred. I hated that card so much in Expedition. I don't remember what the initial version was. I think Kindred cost 4, right? Kindred was a 4/3 for 4. And now it's a 5? Is that right? I don't know, just play in the space of playing Expedition, the removal was always so limited, right? You never got to really pick and choose the removal that you were going to have access to. So it's very easy to get stuck with decks that had like one removal spell and 3 combat tricks, and that was the extent of your interactivity for Kindred. And then so much of it is just like a big curve game, that having a unit that just kills a unit on curve all the time, every turn of the game, it's a bunch of fucking nonsense to play against. I hated it so much. Do we want a Kanaku student here? Like, if it eats a Mystic Shot, that sucks so much, but it's not ridiculous to think that opponent will just have something like an Aftershock next turn, right? So we could potentially, you know, like form up the Kanaku student to get out of this mess.
My shield is yours.
All right, we'll see where this gets us. Sure.
Daylight warms the heart and lights the way. Back, heretic.
Just for the turn, like, this barrier is not very good, right? Putting the barrier onto Kanaku student it's nice for the little extra bit of protection, but it doesn't really advance our goals other than trying to protect the student. And so I was kind of curious if we couldn't roll into the next turn and then just have
It was my heart that led me.
like take the big bank, only be able to play the singular student,
The balance
and then
requires a watchful eye.
Master, I am
still have the
ready
form
for
up
my
mana
next
and not
mission.
spend our barrier, bro. But get to start building up board now. Again, another space to where it would be kind of cool to really pop off with Fiora, but having a second Solari Priestess makes it very likely that opponent would either have a Meteor Shower or whatever the 6 mana Obliterate is. So she's a kind of a tough sell in terms of trying to get OTKs. Does 4, right? Yeah. Make him work for it a little more. Close to flipping. Is it worth? Probably. I'm not
The balance has been
so worried
maintained.
about this Shen. Like, I don't have the greatest expectations of this Shen being able to survive. But we still have 2 Shens and 3 boats in our deck. And now all of our future Shens are going to be flipped. And so it's very easy to get out of this space. It is nice that he gets the +1 health in the face of Death Ray. So if he wanted to put another spell in front to try and stop the Shen barrier, the Death Ray's not enough now. So he needs to like let this Death Ray happen and then move back in at slow speed to try and get the kill. But at the end of the day, I think that's okay. The future Shens are also good. These Fioras, not super important to get on the board right now.
Rock got me good.
That all sounds like a win. Interesting.
Reality is just your mind crumbling under what it doesn't understand, silly.
It's going to let the Zoe happen. We do have this single combat ready, but this is like a real easy spot to just get zinged. It's a lot better now, but like trying to single combat Shen onto Zoe and then opponent having a removal spell is just a absolute pure disaster.
Save your world. We speak with blades.
Now we're good though.
Portal me something cool.
It's gonna be the stun, isn't it? Equinox. Equinox is tolerable. Crescent Strike would have been fucking disaster mode. Now Hush. Okay, Zoe's not gonna flip. I could have gone for the single combat onto Zoe instead, but she's not gonna be hitting 4 more spells with opponent at 0 mana.
I never try me.
So we go.
So not the greatest spot. We definitely have board. Really need to draw like a boat. A boat should end it pretty quick. Just the interactivity of double riposte doesn't really do it for me. Sarded Strike's good though. If he wants to drop one big unit for the turn, it gets a chance to get him. I guess there shouldn't be a ton of big units in Viktor Aphelios, or Viktor Zoe, but getting Viktor off the board would be a pretty big tempo swing. Nice.
Join the glorious evolution.
I have no equal.
Okay, well, we're threatening lethal on board. That's always cool. No units for opponent. Okay.
I will cut you down.
I think we gotta go. It's like we have the Shen in hand, but with double riposte, we can fight through most spells, and I don't want to like add Shen and then he's like herpity derpity, it's the golden sister, right? That's gonna be a fucking disaster. So I think that was a pretty good open, especially given how opponent didn't really do anything in the previous turn. All right, good stuff. Get ourselves one last battle in here. Ooh. Man, I remember the days of Fiora being too good in the standalone deck. If you don't remember standalone, it used to be a 3-mana spell, and one of the literal best things you could do in the game was spend 3 mana to give a unit +3/+3. And so it was a little bit more obnoxious with up against Teemo Tristana. Let's hang on to the Badger Bear and look for challengers. It was a little bit more obnoxious back in the day, just the kind of lack of stuff to do. There wasn't cards like Hush running around, but like the literal best decks in the game were like Fiora Shen was standalone, so you could play nothing on the first 2 turns of the game, get your full 3 bank going into the 3rd turn, and then on the 3rd turn you could play Fiora and then play standalone and just have the 6/6 Fiora on board. And you could also do the same thing with Solitary Monk. Solitary Monk was also considered to be too good there for a while. I think it used to be a 4/3, now it's a 3/3, now nobody cares. But that was a very powerful deck as well, using the Solitary Monk along with standalone and then rallies and Zed. Zed with standalone is pretty good. I think the really surprising thing to me about that era, now granted, I didn't play a ton of Constructed back then, but that was in the space to where you had a 3-mana fast speed relentless pursuit, and how nobody in the world really figured out how fucking obnoxious that was. Like, especially now that we're in the space of relentless pursuit being a 4-mana slow spell, like just being able to cast a rally in the middle of combat. So like your opponent attacks, you block a bunch of their stuff, you get way ahead on board, and then you just rally in the middle of combat, and you immediately get to attack again. Like, that just sounds fucking bonkers to me. I'm so surprised that it took so long for the rallies to get nerfed so hard.
By my honor, you must die.
All right, let's see what we can do with Fiora. She's very threatening onto this Teemo. I know Teemo here isn't the big build-around aspect of the opposing deck, but he does threaten quite a bit of damage, and so I would like to try and get him off the board with Fiora. If he comes in and drops a Vengeance this turn to protect his Teemo, fucking awesome. That would be a delight for me. We'll still get a very strong attack in after the fact. There it is. The power of Fioras. The power of Fioras. Blocks here all suck now. Pretty sweet. I did pick up the Kanaku student combo. I like it a little bit in the sense that like the student and the Badger Bear and then the riposte next turn, we can pretty much curve out very heavily. And then getting the double barrier, like if we attack and we play the riposte onto blocking Badger Bear, it's going to put a barrier on the Kanaku student, and that's 2 barriers for the Greenglade Caretaker. Just a big old potential chunk of damage. But let's see how this plays out first. It might look a little bit better at the end of the day to save the 2 mana and then just play Screeching Dragon next turn. I don't like it.
Two worlds, one
He's so invested in this board with just garbagey units now.
My shield is yours.
I don't think there's any real punishes for adding more units here. The worst thing would be the double summon, right? The double summon Yordle, whatever it's called. But everything else is pretty tolerable, I think. Bring a Buster Shot onto our Greenglade Caretaker. Another thing I've been thinking of doing, switching the name back to Butt Stuff 420. I don't know if that's a valid name in the Riot space. When I initially went back and made a Riot account, I used to use the name YOLO Booty Tom, and I think that came from a space of I used Butt Stuff 420 on Blizzard games, but then I think that name was too long on Riot by 1 letter. I think YOLO Booty Time is like 12 letters, but Butt Stuff 420 is 13 letters. I think that might have been the case, and I need to come back and see if things have changed. See if YouTube censors me for having having the name be Butt Stuff 420.
Way, come along.
All right, Teemo coming in. I don't really care if we lose any units as long as he has to play a spell to do it. Then that's fine. If he starts coming in with pie tosses or whatever to kill off some of these dudes, that's not a big deal. I just don't want him outright winning any of these combats. Essentially cycled the same card there. Giral is probably even better in this place than the Screeching Dragon would have been. Get that tax on the mana. The suppression from days of old, huh? Back in my day, we didn't have suppressions. We had to play Giral. Fucking boomer. Alright, we got it. Nice little victory. Nice little throwback. GG. Well played. We can pull this up a little bit more. And so, yeah, these went pretty well in terms of how I thought it was going to go. Having to play against removal-heavy decks like Thresh Nasus or whatever Nasus deck that was is pretty painful. But against all the unit-based strategies, you're pretty good. But as we were kind of talking about the olden days of Fiora, when you could pull off these kind of true OTKs with the standalones and the strikes and everything, there's just too much incidental ways to stop Fiora that I don't think that that's a very good build-around strategy right now, right? We saw an opponent play the Explorer. We ran into an opponent that had a bunch of flash freezes. It's very easy for that Nasus opponent to have things like Vengeance and Quicksand. Playing against the Azir Irelia deck, good chance they have Quicksands, good chance they have Defiant bounce spell, Blade Dance bounce spell, whatever it's called. And so it's not to say that you can't get Fiora OTKs, right? We definitely got one in one game. We could have pushed for it in another. But that's, to me, just better as kind of a side piece as to where we're really more so focusing in on the Shen aspects, the barrier aspects, the Sacred Protector double strikes, along with the Kanaku student kind of thing. And then we just have Fiora as kind of a side strategy to where if it works, great. Not planning on it working, but you have to care about it. You have to plan around it. You have to work towards it. You don't know if we're playing deny. You don't know if we have any strikes. You don't know what our entire combat suite looks like. You have to really do a lot of work to ensure that you don't die to Fiora, to where she's just kind of this value attacky style of unit within the deck most of the time. Very interesting how that plays out. Ooh, but nonetheless, good set of games. I had fun with that. I hope you did too, because that is going to do it for us today. So hope everyone enjoyed the video. Hope you maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.